machine on?
It's on.
Are you aware that it's 3:30?
I'm not.
Are you aware that I messaged you at 4 a.m. this morning? I've been ready since 4 a.m. I've been right here waiting since 4 a.m. Are you ready now?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What should we build? This. We should build this. If anybody can guess what this is, maybe we'll do this as a release party. Since last time I'm like, guess what this is? And the first time it was in the title. And then people were like, I'll just watch to the end. Maybe we'll do it as a release party. And if you guess what this is, we'll send you something. I don't know what. We'll send something. So I'm going to build this thing. And if we do the release, I always have these good ideas and then things happen. Like I'm busy or I'm not there when it gets released or something happens. So I'm going to build this thing. And as always, we're going to use process of elimination. I'm going to take all of these pieces and turn them into a lot fewer pieces. I'm just going to set this over here. I've got a couple pull tabs that go on these. From the very beginning, we've always done our pull tabs with Velcro on them. Really, I don't think it's necessary, but we've always done that, so people expect it. So we will go ahead and put Velcro on our pull tabs here. And we really, for all of our pull tabs, we use two different sizes on an adjustable pull tab. We use a 6.5 inch or an 8 inch. And then all of the webbing where we sew our buckles on, where the female goes on, that is a 3 inch piece. So I know that these get these pieces here, so I'm just going to eliminate this and make fewer pieces right here. I'm going to start right here. So that I actually want that stitch pattern a little bit smaller so it falls easier and makes the square better. Right there. Just pick that up with the corner of that so I don't have to try to pick it off with my fingers. Right there. Tack that last stitch there. And now I'm going to run this straight in to the next one. I'll spend more time pulling thread than sewing, so that's why I sew everything together in a chain like that. See how that's making a perfect box? Same amount of stitches this way as this way. It's because I have my stitch pattern, my stitch length dialed in where it just falls perfectly. I am missing, there it is. I used to take these and make my pull tabs like this. I don't even fight it anymore. I instead sew a small hem. It's just more replicatable when you have multiple people sewing on the same items for them to come out looking the same. So I just make a first hem right there. And now that I've separated these, I'm just going to burn these little whiskers, tags, threads, whatever. Irish pennants, I hear people say that all the time. So there's that. Ooh, oversewed it. Little squeak, it sounds like a mouse. You hear it?
Mm-mm.
You do not hear it?
Mm-mm. I'm not paying attention to it. Oh. What's that from?
I don't know what it's from. I actually dropped a bunch of oil down in this thing right before we started and spun it. so that it would remove some of the loudness from the video, but now it's got this new sound. I sew on this machine every day. I probably sewed for 4 hours last night after everybody left. This is really just for when you put the buckle on, it kind of keeps the buckle from coming off. You could just do it like this, but then you've got a raw edge, and eventually that scab on that raw edge gets busted, and we just conceal it, fold it under like this. While you have it in your hand, you might as well do all the processes you need to do to it. It's economy of motion. Doesn't make a big deal when you're doing one piece, but when you're doing hundreds of the same thing, it adds up quickly. Not sure what's going on here. The tension's weird. So these are lids. When I build these, I'm taking into consideration which side has the most pattern that'll be visible.
Have you ever gone to cut your attached pieces and cut the fabric?
Yeah. But where they're attached, it's usually at the bottom. Like this one, for instance, both these raw edges are going to be concealed underneath. You'll never see them. So this has no pattern. Like if this was a piece for production, I would probably refuse this and have them cut me another piece.
No pattern. Are you Specifically saying that the patterns is all mainly one color, like black.
All
or
black.
something.
Yeah, I'll show you here in just a second. This is a good example of it. Now I put the worst side on the underside, which is this side here. So if this side has some good pattern, this side does not.
Gotcha.
This side has a little bit. This side has nothing, but where it's going to fall, you're not going to see either of them. So it's all going to look black on that. Use that clamp as your third hand. One hand, two hand, three hands. And hem this under about a 1/4 inch. Tack it there. About 1 inch before the bottom, 1.5 inches, whatever you need. I'm going to make another tuck here. Not a tuck, but a fold, a hem. Same thing. Putting tension on, pulling out, and then folding in here. I need buckles. So this is the outside, this is the inside. All this does is give you more of an abrasion barrier and makes the pouch a little stiffer, and makes it an extra layer, makes it a little stronger. So I'm going to take this, just sew that on. Just a cheap $35 attachment. I don't know what they cost nowadays, maybe 50 bucks, maybe 35 still. Amazon, Collier equipment, whatever. And this is a single needle machine, obviously. For the first couple of years we were doing this, I didn't even know an edge taper existed. I was just taking edge tape and creasing it on the machines, and all the tables were worn, and gym equipment was worn, paint was worn off anything that had a somewhat sharp edge on it. And really, to do straight stuff like this, you don't even need an edge taper. You can do this just by hand. You can take this stuff and just kind of crease it, and it'll fold up. Now, there's a couple kinds of edge tape. In black, I get an extra stiff tape, and I get a softer tape also. I've never seen it in any of the camo patterns. All that edge tape seems to be very, very soft. So, like that. I'm gonna go ahead and put my second line here. Now, I'm gonna find center right here because I'm going to put my Velcro on here. And you'll get to, when you've done tons of these, you can just eyeball it, but we'll just put that on there so you guys can see it. This mag pouch, it's a rifle mag pouch, will hold, it's Velcro and Fast-X closure. Now this here it's cleaner if you just put this Velcro under this edge tape. Now, if you put the Velcro under the edge tape, it's also more difficult to warranty the Velcro if you have somebody that actually does wear the Velcro out. So there's two schools of thought there. I've not built one of these pouches in a long time. This used to be the meat and potatoes. The first two rigs we made, the first two magazine pouches we made were the CQB mag pouch and the Patrol mag pouch. And the CQB mag pouch holds 2 M4 mags, and the Patrol holds 3 M4 mags. And this is a Patrol mag pouch. I'm just building the Patrol because it's a little bit wider so that there's more for you guys to see here. When I go to fold it, you can see inside a little better. The CQB magazine pouch will carry 2 M4 mags, and as a byproduct it will carry a pair of clamped MP5 mags or 3 single MP5 mags. It'll also hold a smoke grenade, or our 16 round tray of buckshot will also fit in there. The Patrol magazine pouch, it's the same build, it's just a little wider. It carries 3 M4 mags, and as a byproduct to 3 M4 mags, it'll carry 2 M14 G3 or FOUL mags, and it will also carry, you can still put a smoke in there, it's a little bit loose, but you can do 308 or 5.56, whereas the other you can do 5.56 or subgun, 9mm. And we made vests that had all these, we made LBVs that had all these on there, and then we made one that was a combination of the two also. So that's that. Now that long pull tab we made will go right here. And this gives you Velcro and Fastex. The original idea was Velcro for speed of extraction, Fastex for noise discipline, or items that you wanted to quiet, right? You could put an opposing piece of Velcro on the Velcro and then just use the buckle. You can open much quieter. So whichever you preferred. So there's that. And then we're going to hem right here. Normally I'll just roll, right into a next one, but I don't have another one here, so we'll build in a single. Make your hems the same size, because when you go to box the bottom of this, it's going to make them cattywampus, right? Give me a thesaurus. Cattywampus. What's another? Off canter, off askew. Goofy. Goonie bird. I like Goonie bird. Goonie bird work? Okay, so there's that. Now, this here, we're gonna go 1 inch or 2 inch, right? If you can do it on the hem, your hem's gonna be a 1 inch hem, but your mark is gonna be 2 inches here. So we used to actually mark all of this stuff, and we were building hundreds and hundreds of rigs, which had 4 mag pouches each with this build. And we used to do it, the girls would mark them at the sewing machines. So all through San Diego, for 12 years or so, 15 years, everybody just did this. Like, we never said, hey, these are the marks. The labor just knew how to do it. They just could look at it. And then when we moved here, the labor was very different here because there were big factories and everybody was kind of doing one task. Whereas in San Diego, we ran Mexican labor. Everybody had come from like TJ, Tijuana, Rosarito, Ensenada. And I think it's just because it was the culture there. Like, they grew up making clothing or working in a factory as a child. So by the time we saw them in San Diego, like they could just look at something and take it apart. Like, we didn't even have to have partial pieces built to look at in different stages. We'd be like, here's a bin with 100 of these, and I'd sew one, and then boom, they would just have, hundreds of them at the end of the day done. Different labor force for sure. So these marks here, what this is going to do, and you might want to run your lines all the way up because you're going to start sewing at the top here, just like so. Now, this magazine pouch is very different from almost anything on the market now. And what this does is this folds in here, and then it folds here, okay? So that makes your 90-degree angle right here. It boxes this pocket, and it starts to make it into a pouch. And what I'm showing you is the back, the lid of the pouch, the back of the pouch, the bottom of the pouch, and the face are all one piece. So this thing, where your magazines actually touch bottom here, you've got 2, 4, 6 layers of material right here. So your mags touch 6 layers of material. And then when we sew this all together, there's actually another piece that goes over here. So it makes it 1, 2, 3 layers here, and then 4, 5, 6, 7 here. So there's 7 layers of material with 5 lines of stitching holding this thing together. And then when we put them on a rig, we sew them on with another 5 lines. So you have 10 lines of stitching. So we used to see, we were selling our rigs originally for 175 bucks. And then years later, they were $250 for the rigs. Now those rigs trade secondhand market right now, starting at $1,200 to $2,000. You'll see them move. We make a rig like this right now with a few improvements, but it's really the same rig. The pockets are identical. And the starting price on those rigs is 750 bucks. And when we open them up, I open them up for about 30 minutes. We sell more than I want to build, and we shut it down. So we'll get a few dozen orders within a 30-minute time frame. So kids used to come up, usually young Marines. It was the big dumb one in the group always. And he's like, why is this rig 175 bucks? I can get this one for 100. So we would carry around a dip and chin pull-up bar to the gun shows. And we're like, okay, here's the deal. And we would take these rigs and we would snap link them up to a pull-up bar, and we'd have the biggest 2 Marines or Navy guys, whatever, get on this, one dude on these 2 pockets, one dude on these 2 pockets, do pull-ups. Now go do that with that other rig, right? You can literally take our pocket, we could have a standalone pouch, we could have it on a rig, we could have it on a subload, and I'm like, put your foot in this pouch, now rip the lid off, try to rip it. You can't tear it apart. And that's why that rig costs more. You can take all those other rigs, and back then it was like the Eagle, London Bridge, Blackhawk, mostly Blackhawk because they were marketed so well and the price point was low, thus the quality also was lesser. But you would take those rigs and hang them up by the drag handle, and they would just rip them, right? Like brand new rigs, you could literally pull them apart while you were standing looking at brand new gear. Every time sniper school would start up, we would give all the students on the roster that were active. We had an active roster, so you get 20% off just for checking into sniper school. But these kids, some of them would run those mesh type vests or whatever, and one of the first drills they would do is they're like, well, the one dude's shooting spotters over here, they're like, okay, you're hit, spotter, grab your shooter by the drag handle and drag him. And those rigs would rip all the time, and the kids would come in, they'd want them repaired, and I'm like, look, you get 20% off. The price we're going to charge you to fix this in a manner that it won't come apart, you can actually buy a new rig. So all through sniper school, they were all running patrol vests or a combination, which was our rallyman vest, or it was a Surefire instructor vest at the time, which was 2 mags and 3 mags, and then had utility pockets. And then we'd give high shooter and honor grad of all the sniper school, they'd get a full rig. They'd get a rig, a hydro carrier, a butt pack, a belt, a subload, and a holster. So they were getting like $1,600 worth of stuff for everybody for honor grad and high shooter of sniper school. But here, we'll show you the pocket here. This is how this goes right here. So you're just going to fold these lines into this line, the edge of that onto that line. And we're going to start right here. We're going to tack that. And you just got to, I'm going to use this, right? I'm pulling a little taut backwards here, a little tight, and then I can just push this into place. And I want my line to really, I want to split this line. I want to see a little blue, but I don't want to see any knot on the other side. So I'm just going to split this line here, and by applying tension, I can just move it into place really easily. See that? Right there. And I can just rip this down here. And now from here, I'm just going to back up. And I'm going to pull this into place, 90 degrees. Now, you can do this a couple ways. This is how I have always done it. I'll just travel around, follow it, lock it out, and then do this side. But I see we have people out on the floor right now that can't do this box really well, but they can do this. Anybody can do this part. So we will see the girls actually separate right here. sew the other side and then hand it to somebody else that can box it, so we can have an employee still kind of pre-sewing and doing setup on it. Now, just make sure we're exactly 90 degrees, right? So I'm going to come here. Now, this here is 4 layers of material where this is hemmed because it's 2 layers thick, and then it's hemmed, so it's 4. So when I get up here on the foot, I'm going to needle strike. I want to let the pressure off so that that thing's not bulldozing that forward. And just sew right in so it's nice and flat. It didn't move my work. I'm going to pull this all out of the way because I just want to go through the 4 layers. I don't want to catch that other piece there. I'm going to come right in here and hope that I caught that. You can look, and I've got it here. You'll see it if you have shot through it. Right there. And I have run out of thread. If you want to be fast at sewing, get fast at rethreading and changing your bobbin. I was telling Brandel earlier, this sewing machine here, we have a lot of there's a lot of machines here, and I have machines that are way heavier duty. This is a Consew 206. I've got a ton of stuff that's badge different. They're really Consews too, 206s, same consumable parts. But we've got some big Jukies and some other stuff, and some way newer machines. A lot more machines with more technology on them. I will sew on a machine until I have a catastrophic failure that I can't quickly fix, and then I'll roll that machine out and just put a new working machine in place, and I'll just sew on it until I literally can't. But you put a relatively new sewer on and they're like, oh, it's breaking thread, or there's a burr, or like they always want to change a needle. And I know when you start sewing, people tell you change the needle every day, and in factories they actually have people that come around every morning and change the needles. I don't ever change a needle. I don't ever sharpen a needle. If I'm changing a needle, it's because it's bent to the point it won't sew, or it has grenaded and shattered. Now, needles are cheap. You can definitely change a needle if you want to. When I started doing this, we literally couldn't afford needles. We didn't know how to, there was no internet or anything, right? You had to go someplace, and I could either buy a cone of thread or a package of needles, but not both. So we were taking fine sandpaper and just resharpening our needles. You would also, on the 130Es and the 130 GMs, you know, it wasn't a walking foot, the lighter weight machines. It was just a needle plate with a hole in it. So we had like some rope, abrasive rope, and you would just smooth that out also. But inevitably, you're gonna get a burr someplace. And my staff now, when there's a burr, the answer is we need a tech, right? And we have a tech. The techs are few and far between, especially here in the middle of nowhere, right? My techs that come in here will have been in Florida on Monday and Atlanta on Tuesday and Louisiana another day, right? So we have a very good relationship with some of the best guys in the industries. And they, whenever they're near, like I can call them, hey, we have an emergency. And they're like, look, I'll come out there tonight, but I got to charge you $600 travel. If you need them, you need them. But usually you can work through it. And what I'm getting at is when my machine develops a little glitch or a problem, you just work through it. If you get fast at rethreading, this machine, whatever the problem is, I will run it long enough that it smooths itself out, metal on metal, whatever. And I know somebody's cringing right now hearing that. But whatever problem this has, as long as it will pick up thread, lock thread, and the timing works, whatever glitch this thing comes up with, if you just sew and continue sewing, it will smooth itself out. It is very rare that I have somebody come in and fix my machine. Because typically when they do, as good as they are, they will leave, and the next day there will be some other weird thing going on with it. So get good at rethreading. Also, I don't know about all machines, but all of our machines, when you push this knee lifter here, it lifts this foot right here. this also lifts this foot up higher and locks it out, right? But when you do this, now there's a tensioner over here, the thread tensioner. When I push this, it typically pushes this thread tensioner and releases tension. These things are always broken. It's a little lifter bar in there. It's just this little piece with a spring. So when I start to sew, if you watch this right here, watch this thread right here. When I start to sew, no, wrong one. Watch this one right here. I have it, see how long I have my tails? When I start to sew, it sucks it up in there. And it will pull it through there because when that needle tensioner doesn't work. So I always start, and you'll see me a lot of times, I'll start to sew and I'll have to rethread it. That's why. It literally is like a 30-cent part. But I'm in the habit from not having, like it used to be, we would rent sewing machines 30 years ago, 35 years ago. So when my machine was broken, I would drop it off and get a new machine that was tuned, but it would always have a different problem. If you get good at rethreading the machine and just working through the problem, most of the problems go away. Okay, now I'm just gonna go back over this because I ran out of thread there. I'm gonna lock that in, come right up there. See where I backed up a little because I'd missed the meat. And here is what we're looking at. That's where I ran out of thread right there. Get that out of there. But that's what we're looking at right there. It makes it nice and sharp. Now I did miss it right here. So you can go back over it and try to catch it, or we can just, even once it's done, come from the other side here. And there it is. Now when we first started sewing all of this, we only had black thread. Like literally, we had no ability to get green thread. So everything we were doing was this terrible color of olive drab green or this horrible woodland pattern because it was coming from an upholstery place. And we were buying material by the yard, but we got to where we were buying enough they would actually warehouse some of the stuff, like, which meant they would have a roll and they'd sell me yardage off the roll. But everything we had was OD green, or this really terrible tan color, is really bright tan, or this woodland that wasn't really woodland, it was all greens. It definitely wasn't M81, but the pattern was good. But it was black, so we were sewing contrasting thread on everything from day one, so it was important that all of our stuff was nice and sharp and looked good. When you're sewing matching thread, it is a lot more forgiving, and if you just develop the habit from the beginning of doing everything with precision, it won't matter in the future, right? You won't develop any bad habits. It'll suck when you're learning, but it'll be the difference between having very high-end clients and charging whatever price your time is worth, versus having to mass produce a bunch of stuff to meet a price demand of that market. Now, the truth of the matter is also, if you're just doing this for yourself, just so you have the skill when society collapses or the zombies are here, right? You're going to be the cobbler. You put some thread in some shit, we underestimate how strong this material in the thread is. Even if you can just get some thread and some shit to hold some stuff together, you'll be amazed at how strong it is, even if it doesn't look pretty. You can hand sew with dental floss and hold shit together with shoe goo, and you'd be amazed at some of the gear that's out there that we saw, especially guys on deployment, SEALs and stuff that were just, fabbing up themselves. So that's that box there. This is what it looks like on the underside. And where your mags are going to touch, you've got 6 layers of material. You've got 2 here, but we're going to put a giant grommet right here. And then we're going to conceal these edges right here with this piece here. And then that stitch I just put in is going to be completely concealed by edge tape. So I'm going to just dock these off right here so they match this cut of this pattern. What is going on with my scissors right here? Somebody's been using my scissors today. I left them on the table. Somebody picked them up. Now there's a fucking dead spot in them. What the fuck? Okay, so there's that. Now, when you edge tape this, because most of you are using a single needle machine, right? When I was learning to do this, you can edge tape to where your needle is on the edge or on the inside. Now when you're doing curves, it's more forgiving if you're up against the edge right here. You can also, edge tape is typically just to conceal something or to give the appearance of a finished edge. So these are going to be, like if you're sewing this on a rig, you'll never see it. But what I'm getting at is, do you want to fold this, right? Do you want to conceal the raw edge of the edge tape? So this goes through here. Get you your free screwdriver, advertising screwdriver, right? That every tire store used to give away. These are great if you've never used them. When I started doing this, they had these badass stainless steel or metal. They never rusted. But they were just this all metal construction, real gnarled checkering. And it was these screwdrivers that these sew shops had, and they were like $3. And over time, I haven't been able to find them. I haven't looked in years. Luckily, when I moved to Tennessee, Jaeger gave me like 3 of these, and I'm down to 1. But this, like, if I lose this, I spend a lot of time. I have bought every small screwdriver, Craftsman, DeWalt, all of them. But when you get yours that you really like, you will really, and you can take them and sharpen them so that you can push your edge tape and kind of grip it and make it work better. But that screwdriver, once you start using it, you will find that you use it a lot of places. Like you can take and push your work in so that it's just flat, you're just on the edge that you want, but you can hold it under if you're doing thick stuff on tape or whatever. Now, I'm going to drive needle down here. I'm going to pull the work a little, and I'm also going to hold the edge tape. And I'm just going to use my finger to hold this in. Right there. And I'm perfect, right? But I've done this probably millions of times at this point. Now, when I come to the edge here, I'm just going to hold my finger, especially on, like, this is a pretty good radius here. On gentle radius, you can do this much faster. I'm going to apply tension on the tape, and I'm just going to, the meat of the work will pull itself through. See how it's pivoting? If I do this fast, it'll rip it through and turn on its own. Now, I want these even, right? So I want to end it right there and allow for tucking that under. Now this is the last of the edge taping that goes on this particular project right here. And I've already actually fucked it up. I'll show you why here in a second. Now I want these even, which it is. Now you've got your tuck up in there. This is again where this little screwdriver comes into play. As you're sewing, it will pull it back, and you'll end up with them. What was that word we went with? Goonie bird.
Goonie bird.
Cattywampus. Not even. Askew. Like that first girlfriend you had with the cross eye or the wonky, like that. Remember how much you were in love? Remember when she left you and your life was devastated, and now you look back and you're like, man, I'm so glad I don't have the crooked eye girl. Okay, so there's what that looks like. Now, This is the important side because this is the side we're going to see. So I'm going to put my first stitch line in here, my second stitch line. Now I'm going to slow down when I get to the turn here where it's radius, and I'm going to use my little screwdriver and make sure I'm going to look at this as like 1/2 inch, 1 inch pieces. I'm just going to take a few stitches, get it flat, a few stitches, get it flat. If you get good at this, you will be really glad that you took the time to get good at this. Now, let's see what the underside looks like. If you look at our old rigs, there was always like 3 or 4 stitches in them. It's because I had to get it to, because it wasn't perfect right here. So see this? See where these are perfect on the edge here? They're not here. Just missed it barely. So I'm going to come through and put my other lines right here. We should probably look at it before we get, yeah, see, we're good here. Now this, right, we got this little pucker. I want to pull this out pretty flat and get it sewn as far out to the edge as we can. And it'll look like somebody who knew what they were doing sewed it, is what it'll look like. But it's that fine attention to detail, right? Guys look at bags that I build and they're like, how the fuck does this guy sell these bags and get $2 grand for them? It's that little shit right there. That's how. When I first pulled up to my shop, the first day I drove up, my Blazer ran out of gas as I coasted up to the shop. And they were going to tow my truck that night. So I got a couple of people who I didn't even know, and we pushed the truck around to the back alley. And I lived in the shop for 30 days, didn't leave the shop at all for 30 days. Took bird baths, there wasn't a shower there, took bird baths in the sink and just lived there and ate MREs and gained 20 pounds but I didn't spend money on anything. Everything that came in went towards paying the rent that I did not have and the electricity that was not in my name that, you know, I had like a week. So you just got to do what you got to do. But if you do that, you'll be able to afford that $4,000, $5,000 cutter. And that thing will not only add precision, but it will do the work of multiple persons.
So do you cut multiple of those at a time, or do you have to cut them individually?
So now, like this pocket right here, for instance, these are, I think these are 3 3/4. These are 3 3/4. And then this piece here is 8 inches. And then the one I'm gonna put the buckle on is with 3. So if we were gonna build, let's say we're gonna build 100 of these, I need 100 3-inch pieces. We just go to the machine, we put the roll of 1-inch webbing on. The blade's like 4 inches, I think, maybe it's even wider. And we just pop in 100 and the size we want, and they're never right? So if you put in 3 inches, you actually need like 3.2 or 3.1, depending on the machine and how worn the rollers are. And then we just hit go and it goes. Now for webbing, we use a hot cutter. For Velcro, we use a cold cutter. Now, when we first bought the machine, we buy the $4,500 machine. It's the hot cutter, and it only sears one end, right? We had to have a friend fab up a piece that holds it. We're like, hey, I need both ends burnt. And they're like, oh, well, you need this other machine. So we get the other machine, which is now $5,500, and it still doesn't work. So basically, when the assembly comes down and the hot knife hits this piece falls forward. So we built this piece that goes on there that's spring loaded, so as this comes down, and it actually just holds this for half a second, enough to burn both edges. So there's your pals. Let's go put a grommet in this real fast. We can do it after the fact, but it's much cleaner this way. Come along. Chop, chop. I like the patterning of your feet. Your skateboard shoes.
Yeah.
All right, so kick press right here. We're gonna get this thing right here, figure out where you want it. I know that line is my center. Does that look good? Yeah, that looks good to me. How about to you guys? Look good? Okay. Plus that through there. Makes a nice clean hole. And then I'm gonna put the washer on. I'm gonna set this over the work. And I want the post to come from the outside. This will be the finished edge here. Set that there. Make sure this is flat, all this. Get your fingers out of the way. It will cut anything in between here. It will cut it off. And then, that's a really big die for this machine, so you gotta hit it a few times. Pull that off. And there is a nice, perfectly finished, doesn't turn, locked in, 1/2 inch hole. And that's what those look like. All right, now I'm going to close this. I'm going to look at it a couple times. Does that look like it's 90 degrees? It's off just, there we go. Okay. So, right here, I'm going to get this nice and flat. Now I'm going to needle strike this. Now it's holding it together. Now, go ahead and tap this in there. And you might want to come off and just look at it before you put a bunch of stitching in it. Does it look nice and flat? Yes, looks good. Looks good to me. Looks good. Let's go ahead and duplicate the same thing on this side. Even, yes, it looks even. Catch that stain. See how that ripped that thread out of there? That's because that tensioner there. So get good at finding the hole. Now keep in mind I'm going through 4 layers of Cordura, 7 layers of Cordura, 4 layers of edge tape here, right? So what's that, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 layers of material. If you're going to break this needle or bend this, it's going to be sewing backwards. And what that is it's needle deflection. You're trying to sew too fast and it's moving the needle because it's going through so much material, and the needle strikes the plate. So you might want to just turn your work rather than sew backwards until you're a little more comfortable, have a little more skill with that. When you break that needle, sometimes it doesn't matter, but sometimes it does matter. And what it does is that needle is in this thing right here, and that's the needle bar. And this piece with the hole, that's the needle plate. So the needle goes in the needle bar, and this will jam up in here, but sometimes it throws other shit off, right? I'm capable of raising and lowering my needle bar, but when some other shit goes, sometimes I can fix it, sometimes I can't. Now you have also some stuff down below that'll let go, and you can push this button right here and it'll knock it 180 out sometimes, but sometimes it won't. So let's just not have that happen. So if you're not real comfortable with it, turn your work when you're sewing through real thick shit. And that doesn't matter as much on some of the bigger machines. Plus, somebody will have that happen in the future, and then they will have heard this and they will realize what has happened. in the top, out the bottom. And what that tab there is for is you can grab it, but what it's also there for is that won't ever fall out of there. That tab will not allow that buckle to come off of there by accident. It's always on there. And when you go to put buckles on, you'll get really good at putting buckles on. You'll just be able to do it not looking at it, but the first time it's like catching a zipper. First time you go to do a zipper and put zipper on track, you'll be like, I don't know how they do this. But you'll get better at it. Okay, so here is, where is my pieces? Okay, so we'll put the pull tab on here. And then that pull tab will allow you to rip this Velcro. Look even, looks like it's off this way. If you need to, you can take these and put a tack line in them to hold it. I'm sewing through 3 layers. I've got raw layer, this layer, and then that covers it. And that basically just covers the raw edge there. And I'm going to sew this right there to the edge of the edge tape. Your pattern could be different. I mean, you can build yours however you want it to be. But I'm basically just going to go 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then over, and then 1, 2, 3. And there is the Patrol magazine pouch. Closes with Velcro. There's the back up with Fastex. And this will hold 3 M4 mags. Bullets forward or back, right? So indexed magazines this way for 5.56, or you can flip it and you can put 2 308 magazines in this. Now we make one that has a separate lid which Velcros in, so you can adjust it for height. So you could do 30 round mags, for instance. Now this might fit 30 round 308 mags. You do have quite a bit of adjustment. You're just going to go past the Velcro in order to secure it. Like we do see guys put AK mags in here, but it negates this Velcro right here. But it will do it. We saw guys do it for a decade probably. But there it is. That's the Patrol magazine pouch. And this is the pocket. This was one of the first, it was the first rifle mag pouch that I ever made. And this pouch has been in my product line for 35 years now. And there's not a lot of guys making these because they're very labor intensive. A lot of pouches that are made, especially when you see them on rigs, they're not standalone pouches. They have the back panel of the rig, and then they just sew a piece of material and sew a piece of material and then sew it on the bottom nowadays, right? It's not even a real pocket. There's a face, so when they rip, they're able to come off. If somehow you got this off, it still will hold all your contents. And a lot of people tell you it's overkill, and sure, nowadays most equipment is disposable. Most guys using gear for real, it doesn't come back with them. And then other guys, they're you know, gun bunnies. It's the dudes on Instagram that are always talking shit about the chicks with big tits being gun bunnies. But when you look at their page, all their page is them like jocked up like a Barbie doll. You know, they've got the dudes with the 3 mags and all this matchy match stuff on Instagram. Those are gun bunnies too, so you can laugh at them. But
are these sew bunnies?
Those bunnies, yeah, those bunnies, yeah. Except Would you rather look at the dude with all his multicam, or would you rather look at the hot? Oh, that's what it is, right? They don't like chicks. They got the cross-eyed girlfriend still. They kept her from high school. I get it. I see what's happening there. All right, guys. So hope you got something from this. Go try to build your own. And when you decide that the $2,000 worth of sewing stuff to sew once on the weekend, let me know. I'll be happy to sell you some of these, or buy them from somebody else if it's not us. But I hope you gained something from this. I guess that's it. I guess that's all I have to say today.
Okay.
I might look a little tired. It's because it's midnight. Brandel, you guys don't realize Brandel is 4 hours from here. So when you see us filming, or you hear Brandel in the background, he's 4 hours to get here. So Brandel took off, got home, started loading and downloading video, and realized that his shitty camera, you would think for $7,000 that this camera would function 100% of the time, but for some reason his camera got close to the dirty bunny rabbit here and it stopped filming. I don't know if it's the evil in the bunny head or the ghost or maybe the giant fucking magnet in this PA system sitting down here, but he doesn't have the putting the pals on. So that's why the video looks weird. We're talking about it and some of the sound is there, but you didn't see us put the pals on. Just shitty camera equipment. Things are hard at home. I mean, we should probably, what is that, a Sony? What is that?
Yeah.
Panasonic?
Sony.
What's the best with Nikon? Nikon's, what's the one with the red? What's Peter McKinnon
Canon?
use?
Canon. He uses Canon.
Does he really?
He uses Canon.
Well, there's the fucking problem. Can you get a, can we do the dirty cowboy look?
What's that?
Peter McKinnon all of a sudden has decided he's like a
pirate.
Yeah, he's beautiful.
Like
he's like a fucking male model. He started doing these EDC videos. Mm-hmm. Like he just likes stuff, right?
Yeah, the little fidgets.
So he's got cool EDC stuff, and he hooked up with some dude that is like a leather worker, like just amazing quality craftsmanship. And then all of a sudden, somebody like made Peter McKinnon a cowboy hat, and now he has like, he looks like. I don't know what he looks like. He should be in a modern day cowboy movie, or maybe like Bon Jovi, Wanted, Dead or Alive. Didn't he wear a cowboy hat in Bon Jovi?
I'd say Bon Jovi did.
I'm going to take all Bon Jovi songs and we're going to remake them as rap. Because I know them. Right? That and Skid Row.
John
and
Bovi.
Cinderella. Huh?
John Bovi.
John Bovi.
Bon Jovi.
John Bon Jovi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or Skid Row. I like Skid Row. Everybody's like, what? What? Why am I saying what? What way? All right, so that's why maybe that'll be in the video, maybe it won't be in the video. Use ChatGPT and have them add that part in and see what they
intelligence.
see what they come up with. All right, I still have nothing to say.